morning and welcome to class. In today's edition of our class, I'd like to share some thoughts with you on how to lead your superior. How to lead your superior. Now, I understand that most of us who have just listened to me using that caption there may think that this is a bit abnormal because the subject of leadership, as is understood by most people, is a relationship between a superior person and an inferior person, where the superior person is the leader, while the inferior person is the follower. But I beg to differ, because if we understand leadership to mean influence, nothing more and nothing less, I like to let you understand that it is possible for the inferior person or the subordinate to be able to influence the superior or the boss. It is possible for a worker to influence the boss. It is possible for an employee to influence the boss. So today, we're just learning on how to lead your superior, or how to influence your superior, how to get them to do what they may have not intended to do, how to get them to take decisions in line with what you as the subordinate think is best for the organization. Now, as we move further into this conversation, I'd like to begin by showing to you what has been described as the leadership engagement ratio. Leadership engagement ratio. Now, if leadership is 100% subject, now leadership engagement ratio shows how many percent of leadership should be directed at one of the parts of leadership. Now, what are the parts of leadership? There is the self-leadership, which is you leading yourself. Now, there is the leading above, which is the subject of leading your superior. Now, there is leading across, which is you leading your contemporaries, leading those who are at the same level with you. If you are in the civil service, leading fellow directors if you're a director. If you are in the civil service still, leading fellow permanent secretaries if you are a permanent secretary. If you are the CEO of Bonge Photography, for instance, leading other CEOs of other photography agencies. Now that is leading across, because you are exerting influence over people of the same category or standard. And now the next part of leadership is leading below. That is leading those who are following you, leading your subordinate or those who are inferior to you. But the word inferior there is not exactly right, because there is no one inferior. As a matter of fact, you may just be leading today. So it is better to use those who are subordinate or those who are your worker while you are the employer. Now, so the leadership engagement ratio says that 50% of leadership should be about you. That is self-leadership. 50% of leadership should be about you. So you should concentrate 50% of your time in growing you, in developing you, in influencing you, in determining what happens within you. Now, further now says that 25% of leadership should be devoted to leading your superior, influencing your superior. 20% of leadership should be about leading your contemporaries, those at the same level with you, while only 5% should be about leading your subordinates. Now you see that there is a huge shift from leadership as we know it, from leadership as it ought to be. Because in reality, people spend 90% of their time trying to lead their subordinates, whereas only 5% is genuinely supposed to be given to those people in that category. Now, is it that we're saying don't be interested in leading your subordinate? That is not it. But another way of saying that would be that if you give 50% of your time to grow yourself and you become efficient, that you do not need to spend so much time on growing your subordinate, because as a matter of fact, as you grow yourself, you are growing them. Because one of the best models of leadership is exemplary leadership. If you are disciplined, your subordinate becomes disciplined. If you are happy, your subordinate becomes happy. If you are a visionary leader, your subordinate begins to learn visioning as a matter of course, not by what you say. So when you have invested 50% in yourself, it has a ripple effect on those that are following you because they just become, because you have become. But that's not where we are today. We're principally on how to lead your superior. So you want to ask yourself now, and as a worker, how or what do you need to do to make your boss listen to you? To make your boss call you to ask questions before he or she does any particular thing. So I'll just tell you 5 short ways on how to influence your superior or how to lead your boss. And that will be the end of it for today's class. So the first way to lead your superior is to lead yourself effectively. So number 1, lead yourself effectively. Now please note that those who have a mastery of themselves will eventually have a mastery of others around them, whether they are their superiors or their inferior. When we say lead yourself effectively, we're saying invest time in yourself to learn. Invest time in yourself to know what you're supposed to know. We're saying develop yourself and grow in value daily. We are saying deliver effectively on your own position or your own task. You know, we realize that sometimes people are assigned tasks in an organization and they leave the task assigned to them and begin to criticize their leaders or begin to think on how to make their leaders better. Leading yourself effectively would mean delivering on your own position of responsibility and never being found wanting as far as your own task is involved. Now, the second thing you need to do to be able to influence or to lead your superior is to seek to understand them. Seek to understand them. Understand your boss or your superior in whatever name they are called. Now, you see, there are people who are moved with words. There are people who are moved by actions. There are people who are moved by your display of loyalty. There are people who are moved by your productivity. There are people who want you to take initiatives and bring results to them. There are people who want you to clear with them before you do anything. There are people who want text messages. There are people who want calls. Now, you need to seek to understand the person you want to influence, especially if they are your superior. So if they love text messages, stay with them on the plane they desire. If they love calls, stay with them on the calls plane. Now, if they want you to take initiatives and bring results, by all means, take initiatives and bring results. Now, one of the problems with leadership, particularly as inferiors or subordinates try to influence their superiors, is that most times you operate in a path that you think is right, not in the path that is suitable to your boss. So if your boss wants to see everything you write before you post, make efforts to make sure that they clear them before you post. Now, if you know that they don't care about that, also go ahead and be fast about it, be speedy, take initiatives. Now, but all of that depends on the personality of your boss. Because most times people, in a bid to influence or to impress their bosses, take decisions without clearing them, and it becomes a problem. Now, you realize that over time, when you have sent things to your boss for clearance, at some point they begin to just agree with you without even going through what you've sent. Now, the idea is that at that point you have influenced them, you have demonstrated that you know them to the point that they begin to trust your judgment without having to clear you. Please never act without understanding the person you seek to influence, because sometimes very good can become very bad depending on who you are dealing with. Now, number 3, you must seek to genuinely help them to deliver. Now, your boss has a target. Your boss has a vision. Your boss has a plan to execute. As a subordinate, as a worker, as an employee, any one of you that must influence or lead your superior will be the one who is genuinely interested in helping the superior to deliver on his plans and his target and his vision. So you need to ask the right questions. Please, sir, what do you want done today? How can I help you? Please, if you want to influence your superior, do not add a burden to his own personal burden. You must try as much as possible to note that every time you communicate or send a message to your boss, that it is about him, not about you. Reduce the number of times that you speak to your boss about your personal and private needs, and increase the number of times that you speak to them about their needs. Ask the right questions. So what is it for you today? Do you have challenges? Is there a way I can meet your challenges? Now, when you have sufficiently shown interest in them delivering on their mandate, they begin to show interest in your own affairs. Most times, not because of you, but because of themselves. They begin to get interested in you because they know that your happiness is their success. They know that when you show up in your own glory, that you will help them to achieve what they're supposed to achieve. But when you're always communicating with them about yourself, you realize that you are adding to their burden. So you want to influence your superior, be interested in their becoming, work towards their becoming, and eventually they will start working towards your own becoming. They will start showing you interest. In fact, they will call you to discuss what they want to do before they do it. And that is leadership. Now, why do they call you? It is because over time, you have shown that as far as they need you, you will always be available. Please, the next thing you need to do, number 4, is that you should show them honor. Honor your bosses. Honor your superiors. Make them feel good around you. Please note, I'm not saying flatter them. I'm not saying become a sycophant, but honor them. Now, sometimes you realize that some subordinates are better than their superiors in some aspects. Maybe you speak better English. Maybe you write better. Maybe you are a better UI, XI, or whatever designer. Maybe there are some areas of competence that you are better than your superior in honoring your bosses. You don't go about town shouting that you are the best in this field. You don't go about town shouting that you are the one making your boss to become. You don't go about town shouting that you are the one doing everything for your company. To honor your boss is to allow your boss to take the shine. To honor your boss is to allow your boss to take the glory. To honor your boss is to promote his competence and do not even communicate his incompetencies. To honor your boss is to say thank you for the little things he does. To honor your boss is that for every opportunity you have, you link it to your boss, whether he made it happen or he did not make it happen. Now, when you honor your bosses, you realize that they take decisions in your interest because they know that they would get their glory. The scripture will talk about the Lord saying that he does not share his glory with any man. Now, any subordinate who does not share his boss's glory would have the boss's backing anytime, because the boss will be guaranteed that his glory will eventually come back to him or to her. Now, the 5th and maybe the last, because we had said that we're just going to take 5 for this class. The 5th thing you must do to honor, to influence your boss, is that you must do more than you are paid to do. You must do more than you are hired to do. You see, most times people get into organizations and they're like, that is not my job. You are hired as a gate man, for instance, and then your boss's car is parked outside and you've seen that it is dirty. And then you just open the gate for your boss and the car is parked. And maybe the boss's wife or so says, Mr. Morgan, why didn't you wash the car? And you said, Madam, that is not my work. You can never influence your boss by being rigid on assignment. You must do more than what you are paid to do. You must do more than your fellow colleagues are asked to do. Now, when you give more, they would see you as being more and treat you differently. Now, I'm not saying that all bosses would respond the same way. They are bad guys. who would never notice your effort. But they are the good ones that when you give more, they recognize you and promote you or treat you differently. So when you go to a place, observe the environment. If there are things that are left undone, do it. They would eventually ask questions, who did that? And they say, it's the gate man that washed the car. And they say, wow. Now, sometimes the wow may not increase your salary, but would increase your receptibility into the family. The wow may not increase your salary, but may make them treat you differently. The wife may begin to give you food, whereas all the others, they had to eat their food from outside. Now, these things matter. And I need to emphasize here that it is possible to influence your superior. It is possible to get them to think in the direction that you want them to think. Now, let me add this last one. In a mentor-mentee relationship, which is principally a superior-subordinate relationship, please be careful how you ask for money, because that thing has ruined many good relationships. Thank you for joining us on today's edition of our class. See you again next week.